Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. We are recording this podcast on September 7th. Yesterday was National Read a Book Day. I don't know what that means. Does it mean you're supposed to read a book, an entire book on that day, or read some of a book on that day? These things are confusing, but what's coming up tomorrow, and by tomorrow I mean the day after you're listening to this, September 16th, is National Working Parents Day. And we thought this would be a great opportunity for us to have a little segment to talk about working parents and how the college application process can fit into a working parent's lifestyle. So joining me today is a fellow working parent, Tova Javits. Tova is a popular guest on the show, at least for me. I don't know if our listeners care for you, Tova, but I think
I'd rather not know. I'd rather not find out the answer to that.
We won't put a poll up on Twitter or anything like that. But we want to, so applying to college is very stressful. And I think that more and more, Tova, we see that parents are supporting their students in different ways, but that can often get in the way when you also have your commitments at work. Just initially, when you think about parents that are successful at both managing their expectations at work and supporting their student in the right way for the college application process, are there any particular things that you notice from those parents in terms of how they set the tone for their kids or how they kind of arrange for this project to work for them?
I like the way you said set the tone.
Good. Thank you.
Because that is probably one of the most important things to do first when you start having some of those big family conversations and all your free time as working parents have. And you're sitting around a dinner table, or more likely driving to or from an activity or away for a weekend, and you're having some of these big conversations about what's next after high school, and you want to set that framework. I think it's important to remember who is going to college. Is the parent going to college, or is the student going? Who is going to own this process at the end of the day? Sure, parents might take on the financial responsibility, but at the end of the day, it's the student who's actually the one going. So who needs to care the most, who needs to put in the most effort, and who needs to actually own the process is who is the one actually going to college. So I like that setting the tone piece.
And one of the things you said there, and I know it's just a colloquialism, is, at the end of the day. But I think when we think literally about the end of the day, especially for a working parent, you might have, dogs to walk in the morning, and you've got lunches to make. You got to get the kids to school. Then you've got all your responsibilities at work. You've got whatever the after school programs are. At the end of the day, the literal end of the day, that's probably not a great time to start jumping into the college conversation. One of the things that I've recommended for some families that I think has been really helpful, and I think is especially applicable for those working parents, is can you find a time on a weekend that you can have meetings with your child to get progress updates, to figure out where things are, to understand what needs to be done in the weeks ahead. So maybe it's every 2 weeks. Maybe it's every week. Probably not. Your kids won't like that, but maybe every 2 weeks. And you check in and you say, all right, what have we done in the last couple of weeks? How can I help you going forward? Give me some tasks and then tell me what tasks you're working on. And I think just creating that space for that college conversation means that it's not happening every single day over dinner at the end of the day when people are already a little bit fried from all the expectations that they have. What do you think of that idea? Is there anything that you would add on to that?
I like it. I don't like one part, the part where you said making lunches. I really hope, my kids are still in elementary school, so you're right, I am still making lunches. When they're in high school, they better be making their own darn lunches again.
Maybe these are big families with lots of kids of all ages. I don't know.
Or maybe, I'm making my lunch and they're making their own and we're doing that simultaneously.
Sure, yeah.
I like that of assignments and check-ins. We all kind of operate, especially as they get older, they're going to be managing their own calendars. They're used to having, on Tuesdays, I do this, on Thursdays, I do that, on Saturdays, I do this. So I like the idea of having a standing scheduled on your calendar meeting time crafted out. I think the first couple of meetings, whether that's at the second half of junior year or summer before senior year, is making a to-do list of what are the pieces that need to be done. And then let's put on the calendar, perhaps for some of these meetings, actual agenda items of when are we going to talk about this? When are we going to talk about that? Just like you might have an agenda for a work meeting. And I think some students might respond to that pretty well. What are we covering today? What are we talking about today?
Yeah, it's a balance of like being organized and making sure
Mm.
everything is lined up, and then also staying out of the way and allowing yourself to get out of the way, because you
Yeah.
don't want to be focused on micromanaging the application process. And it's probably not the best thing for your kid either.
No.
There are a
And
lot
then,
of things that are connected to the application process that sometimes require time off work, college visits, maybe driving a kid to an interview.
mhm.
There's a lot of different aspects of this that I think a parent might say, I don't have time to take off work to take you on an East Coast college visit.
Or
Are
the
there any
expense.
suggestions you
Let's
might
talk
have for
about
this?
that. Like, let's all hop on a plane for 3 of us and hotels and go for a week. I mean, that's expensive also.
Really expensive. And so that's, you're working for that, but not probably hoping not to work just for that, right? You want to go for a vacation, not for a homework assignment.
Right.
But one of our colleagues, Jen, who arranged this, she had a really interesting suggestion
Mm.
around college visits. And you want to relay that idea? I wonder how
Yeah.
this would fly with our listeners, but I liked it. I liked it.
I love it too. It's like, it's harkening back to those elementary school days where you had the good old carpool.
Mhm.
Why not carpool or share the responsibility of some of those visits? So and so down the street is going to check out that college. They're going to check out University of Arizona next weekend. Can they have a tag along? And then maybe you bring their kid when you go check out Rose Holman the next month, and whatever it might be. Can you share some of that and go on visits together?
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's a little bit requires probably some more planning if there are flights and hotels and so forth involved, and maybe you want some closer friends. But when you're hopping in a car and driving 2.5, 3 hours to go see a
Why
campus,
not bring another one along? The kids are
you're
going to have more fun if they have a friend along with them anyway.
They are. And I think sometimes there is this perception of like, I need my college process to be my own, because if I bring my friend, that there's a competitive element to this in some respects. And it's like, I just don't, I want to, maybe that's just me, but like, I would squash that out and say like, go together, split up, go on separate
Yeah.
tours, compile notes when you come back. What did you learn? What did I learn? There's a great way to use multiple perspectives here, and to connect with a friend as well. So, I bet there's a lot of kids out there who are applying to the same kinds of schools as their friends.
And you can have different opinions and think about it. And families can approach it differently. And that's all well and good. It's not the act of making the same decisions and getting the same outcomes, but just going through the research process together. I like that. Can I also say I like the idea, when we go back to assignments,
Mhm.
of thinking about how parents can help most effectively, but without as much time, is laying out for your student some organization, but leaving them to do the actual work. If there's a
Yeah.
spreadsheet that needs to be created of research, or a spreadsheet that needs to be created of deadlines and requirements, you can build that sheet for them and show them what are the headers and how do I need to go about researching this information. But then they do the research, they fill that in. You maybe are a little more equipped and capable because of your professional skills for putting these kinds of things together, but please let them do the legwork. Not only do you not have the time, they, again, at the end of the day, need to care more than you.
That's right. I think that there's also some parents out there I can imagine who are, maybe they're project managers for a living. And so their thought is, it's just easier for me to book this virtual
Mm.
tour for you. Or I'm going to create this spreadsheet because I know what I'm doing and I want to make sure it works. I think when that happens, you can be helpful, but you also got to check yourself, because you might set something up on Trello and your kid's like, what the heck is Trello? I don't know how to use this.
Yeah,
So you've got to find something that is going to be useful and usable for your student while also being helpful. And so I love the idea of the student being in the driver's seat and
mm,
delegating. Hey,
yeah,
mom, I want to do a virtual tour for Tulane and Minnesota in the same day. I'm working on the essays right now. You could really help me out by just booking those for me, right?
sure.
If there's that kind of relationship, then maybe mom can go and register for those events and then say, all right, they're on your calendar.
I love
Make
it.
sure that you show up. But I think it's very much, it sounds like we're developing a kind of a collaborative
Yeah.
situation here.
Or to beat the metaphor to death that you just said about being in the driver's seat, then that puts the parent in the navigator seat. They're not driving the car. They might
Right.
help point out directions. They might say, hey, you have a left turn up ahead.
Right.
If we go this route, we might shave off 10 minutes, but ultimately the kid's still the one driving the car.
You reminded me of like when I'm driving and my wife is navigating, it's like, you need to give me more of a heads up about where this right turn is, right? So you, as the navigator, you even got to know what the driver's preferences are. Like in 2 miles, You're going to turn right. It's going to be a slight right, and it's going to be on Murphy Street, right? And so it's like, good. That's what I need. Please warn me again when we get 1 mile, etc. So the navigator's got to figure out what the driver needs. Maybe it's just a French fry. Maybe it's directions. Anything else that we should say? This has been kind of a fun segment. We didn't know what this is just thrown at us. We're like, well, working parents, that's tough. Anything else that you want to throw out to working parents as they're supporting their kids through this process?
They're not alone. Lots of other people are going through this as well. I'm sure there is a lot of support in your friend network, but look for it as support and collaboration, not for necessarily answers. Avoid the whole, I heard this, I heard that. I mean, I think we could make an entire podcast series just on episodes of I heard. And I think that should be a pitch that we should share with Jen as future ideas of I heard segments. But anyway, lean on friends who are going through this as well, who went through it last year, siblings with your nieces and nephews, who what worked for them. Check in with them, check in with your coworkers, check in with your employee benefits provider. Are there any resources that your employer provides that can help you navigate this process? So many great ones. I can think of about 300 companies out there provide college counseling as part of their employee benefit package.
Where, if you sign up for a counseling session, you might get Tova calling you at 10 a.m. or you might get me calling you at 2 p.m. Who knows?
It's true.
But yeah,
I can't
check into it.
Wave when the camera's on. I always have to wave, but I always forget. Hopefully.
And if your employer doesn't have this benefit, maybe that's something that you can mention to your benefits office too. Sure. I mean, you're a working parent, you're there anyway. You might as well see if you can do some college counseling. All right, Tova, this is great. For those of you who are working parents, we know it's tough. There's a lot of balls you have to keep in the air. It is a thankless role as well. You're doing great work, and good luck to you and to your kids as you head into this difficult fall. Hopefully tomorrow, I don't know, you get to leave work like an hour early. That would be great. Huh? Tova, thanks for coming and discussing this with us.
My pleasure, Ian. Take care.
All right. When we come back, we are answering listener questions. Don't go away.